And we're live. Welcome to LOOPcast. Monday morning, raring to go. Feeling a little hungover from the Super Bowl. It was a game. We'll get into that. But first, right off the top, we have a sponsor for the show. We have a new sponsor, Divine Providence Press. Who can go wrong with a name like that? They have a new children's book for you to cherish called Kiss Me Goodnight. And it is about the innocent love a family has for one another, real to life and rooted in sacred scripture and sacred tradition. This is a book for ages everlasting. This visually stunning book is for children from preschool up to 7 years old, but it is written to be enjoyed by the whole family. Check it out. Kiss Me Goodnight is the perfect companion to other faithful books published by Divine Providence Press. It is available online through the EWTN Religious Catalog at ewtnreligiouscatalog.com or by calling the number you see on your screen. It's a great gift for baptisms, birthdays, Christmas, and Easter. Wow, it's like all the seasons wrapped into one bow. Many other celebrations of life. Check it out on EWTN's bookmark with Doug Keck. It was also awarded the prestigious seal of approval by the Catholic Writers Guild and endorsed by sacred artist Gwyneth Thompson Briggs. Again, Kiss Me Goodnight is available online through the EWTN Religious Catalog, and it comes to you straight from Divine Providence Press. Check it out. I might have to check
Wow.
this out for my kids.
And speaking of visually stunning, we have Tom McCluskey with us.
Hey, Tom,
Sub again
welcome.
for Tom Pagasic, who is being a great husband, taking care of his wife is feeling a little under the weather. So
Yeah.
Do any week now, right?
Yeah, do any day
this
now.
week,
Yeah,
it's literally.
Yeah. So I woke up and Pogo says, "Oh, I'm off the show today." I was hoping it was for a little baby, tiny Pogo, but no, this is just sickness. So please pray for the Pogo family right now. Oh man, what a rough time to be sick. So props
Aren't all pogos tiny pogos?
yeah. The short kings and queens. Although Pogo's mother, I worked with her and she is tall, so it's not necessarily
No,
maybe
okay,
just the men
all
of the
right.
family. I'll have to say check it out. But like I said, we have a great show coming up today. DOGE continues to uncover the heights and depths and breadths of government corruption and overspending. We'll get into that. We have a little intramural fighting going on in our own Catholic world. Imagine that. Can't imagine that. So we'll get into that as well. But first, gentlemen, Super Bowl reactions. Great game, bad game. Mercer, do you watch it?
I did. I enjoyed watching the game. The thing is, I do not like really either team. But
there's something freeing about that.
Yeah, so I certainly
game.
wanted a good game, but it was nice to see the refs get defeated. As much as they try to put their help the Chiefs win all along the way, they couldn't have done it without the Zebras.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the thing is, I remember as soon as this game started, I think people are underestimating how strong Philadelphia's defense is, and they just dominated the game. And I actually, the thing is, I'm not like some people. Of course, I like a close game where you never know what's going to happen. I guess so. I do, but like just a dominant performance. That was a championship game. Philadelphia
decisive.
earned it. They were dominant on both sides of the ball. It was amazing to see.
Yep. Condolences. I see we have some Kansas City fans in the chat. So condolences there. Also some Eagles fans. Congrats.
Now we see how the Chiefs play when they no longer get USAID funding.
No. Something happened.
And look, I like a lot of the players on the Chiefs. I do like Harrison Butker, and I think Mahomes is a great quarterback. I'm not against the Chiefs. I don't. I just really upset with it. Felt like, again, the refs were kind of helping them along the way the last couple of games. So it was nice to see.
I lived through Deflategate with the Patriots. They always do that when there's an ascendant empire.
I didn't do that against
the.
I didn't say that against the Patriots. No.
Nah.
The thing, the idea that the NFL could be tipping the scales to allow the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl because Taylor Swift would be there and there'd be more ticket sales. I don't think that's a crazy conspiracy theory.
Yeah, so. I mean, institutional trust is at an all-time low, and that does embrace the NFL. So there you go.
Just saying.
Not great.
Even with everything that's being exposed nowadays with USAID and everything, I still think that human nature makes conspiracies very, very hard. that eventually it comes out. I could be proven wrong once the JFK and MLK tapes come
Oh, the
out, but
Epstein list is coming out. I mean, it's
Epstein
gonna
list.
be
Well, Epstein list. I think we all know
maybe.
who's on it. I think we'll probably read through it and just be like, "Duh."
Ugh,
So
But I'll agree
so
with
gross.
someone that said in the chat, all glory to God, the first words out of the Eagles coach. And just
Yeah,
in general, we see a lot of players that do that. I mean, obviously Harrison Butker, is like that too. I'm seeing it so much more in both NFL and in college football. So many
yeah,
football players, it's not like it's been alien to them before, but it's increasing that they're just embracing their faith and talking about it and sharing it publicly. And hey, that's great. We
that's
love
a
that.
great thing.
Whether you win
Yeah.
or lose, it's good.
and the Eagles
Speaking,
coach is Catholic, so
there
Yeah.
you
if you're
go. That's
watching, give us a
something.
call.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of, the culture, the vibe shift a little bit, everyone wants to talk about commercials, Super Bowl commercials. It's like an American thing. Some
No,
people
you know
watch
what they're
it
talking
just
about?
for
If the
the
girls who don't like football, they have to watch the Super Bowl with their, as a party. That's what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
That's true, that's true.
Commercials. I'm like, I want to watch the game. Shut up.
Alright, did you guys have favorites? Favorite commercials, worst commercials, opinions, anything going on in there?
It seemed like they would put a celebrity in an awkward situation, and that was most commercials,
Yeah.
or they would use Tom Brady. Um,
Matthew
so
McConaughey was, like, in 4 commercials. The guy made bank off of the Super Bowl this year.
it's like
Just
this it probably says it's a bad commercial. The one commercial I think I liked the best was the old ladies driving in the Jeep, like they're teenage
Yes.
girls or something like that.
You liked
I thought it was cute.
Alright. Josh?
Well, I mean, I don't really have a favorite one, but and again, I don't know if all these commercials are national, but the one breast cancer awareness where they're just staring at, like I got to
Oh,
tell my kids not to look at the TV because it was, I'm like, that's
yeah.
just so stupid. Like, it's not needed. Please do not do this.
That
That's
was so obnoxious, and then,
yeah,
like, they have, like, the push-up bras and, like, all the and it's like
everything. Yeah. I
and
don't want to
then
go into
this
too much detail, but
I
yeah,
know, it's a family show, and then this guy walks into a counter, and the woman's there with, like, showing some cleavage, and he looks at her,
yeah.
and she goes, "Excuse me," and, like, eyes up here, and you're like, "Wait, you were just
The
saying
whole commercial
attention,
was the
please, about
opposite,
look
right?
at
Yeah,
it."
yeah.
It was so maddening, I hated that one. The one that I actually kinda liked that I wanted to hate was Pfizer, because I really don't like Pfizer, but the little boy beating cancer and, like, doing the Rocky
Oh
thing,
yeah.
that was sweet. I mean, Pfizer marketing, that was a win. Still don't like Pfizer, but
Definitely don't like
that's
There
cute.
Pfizer.
might have been
Yeah,
tears in my
definitely
household.
not. De
Not by
Oh.
me, of course.
No, you're not a softie at all, Tom. I made you cry last week with my,
Which made
Twilight
me an
Zone.
Eagles
There you
fan
go.
for the game.
Oh,
So
man. Yeah, cringe, Anne-Marie, I agree. Alright, one last Super Bowl thing. We had another cultural vibe shift on display. Taylor Swift, of course, was up
hmm.
in the box there for Travis. I don't think he was gonna propose last night, though, because, like, I don't wanna come off of that kind of a loss and get down on one knee, although maybe it would've given some redemptive quality to the evening. But Taylor Swift goes up on the screen, and the whole stadium starts booing her. It was sort of
Yeah.
and she looked, like, awkward, and, like, her friend who's a witch next to her, who always shows up, was like, "Oh my gosh, my Satan symbols aren't getting applause for some reason." And then, of course, the camera cuts to Donald Trump. Donald J. Trump is there, and everyone just starts applauding. It was great. He was, like,
I,
saluting during the national anthem.
yeah, I think what that amounts to is that the NFL again with Taylor Swift. I mean, like I don't listen to her music. Is her music fine? I guess whatever. It's just I mean I'm not a teenage girl. Sorry, and nor do I identify as one. So it's not really
Oh, good.
it's not really my jam. But if you want to listen to it, fine. If she wants to go to some games, fine. But the way the NFL and the broadcasters for every time she was there is like, and here's Taylor Swift. Here's Taylor Swift. I'm like, most people who watch for sports don't really give a rip about the girl. Like, show her once, fine, whatever, like you would any celebrity, but stop shoving it in our faces all the dang time. And so when they put her on the screen, people are like so sick of her,
Yeah.
like screw you, because the person going to who's spending like $3,000 to go to the Super Bowl game, it's not really a Swiftie, okay? And then when they put Trump on the screen, it's not that they're loving him so much, which a lot of them are. It's that they're like want to reemphasize how much they didn't like how Taylor Swift is being shoved in our faces all the time. So it's
Mhm.
not really even against her per se. It's
Yeah.
just like enough
Enough
of
of this already.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was
Average ticket $5,000.
Oh my
Okay, yeah, even
goodness.
more than I thought. Yeah.
So glad I
So
did
when the
not
Vikings
attend
finally
that.
get there, I guess I'll still be watching it from home.
Yeah, probably. All right. So moving on, let's check in on Trump. We're going to do a quick his popularity rating. I want to just show this clip. Can we do this, Rosie? We've got CNN reacting to the 2-week approval rating for Trump. Want to roll the tape?
Harry Ensign just can't believe it.
This is great. This is great.
Be liking what they're seeing, but it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, look, but it's not just CBS. You know, I like to take an average of the polls. And holy smokes, I mean, look at what the difference is between now.
We're breaking up. All right, we're breaking up. So what he's looking at is 2017, the first 2 weeks, Trump's approval rating was down -5, basically, from I think 50-50.
In the first term, right?
In the first term.
So he's 5 points underwater, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Today, he is 4 points above that. And I think the percentage is 53% approval rating on Donald Trump. I mean, Josh, explain.
Well, here's another stat that he showed on there on that clip, which clip's not loading. Sorry about that, but is that during his during this second term so far, the number of days that his approval rating has been above, what do you call it, above water, where he's more people approve of him than disapprove, right? 21 days so far. So literally every day of his term, he's been above water, above approval rating, right?
Yeah.
How many days was he above water in the entire first term, all 4 years? Just 11 days.
11?
Just 11. So he's almost, by tomorrow, he'll already have doubled it.
That's amazing.
It's astounding. And he's just like, whoa. And like the CNN reporter that's there with Harry Ensign's like trying to like, well, I mean, he did kind of, I guess win the popular vote or whatever, but she's not understanding this. Like, yes, he did, but he won the popular vote and but he still was under 50%, and so what we're getting at now isn't, because he won with 48% and Kamala had 47 or something
47
like that. He's at 53% approval. He has the approval of more people than voted for him.
Yeah.
And it's been sticky. It's been there for a couple of weeks. And they asked people in this poll, would you say that Donald Trump is not doing what he said he was going to do? Or do you think he's been doing what he would say he would do? And it was 70-30. Yeah, he's doing what we thought he would, he campaigned on. We like this. And so that's just amazing. It's pretty astounding. So, Donald Trump, and I give a lot of credit to his chief of staff, Susie Wiles. They are running a great ship right now. And so far, so good.
Yeah. McCluskey,
they're doing more in 21 days than they did in 2 years.
It's incredible.
Because I do think that's driving a lot of the popularity, especially because we had 4 years of a guy who like barely showed up, if he showed up at all. So
they're giving him opportunities for these iconic photographs. So like Donald Trump's got in the White House and he's signing that executive order on preventing boys from being a girls' sports. And he's like, come here. And he just has all the girls surround him and he's signing it. And they're all beaming and super happy. It's like, why did the left let him run on this issue? And there's all the other sort of intangible things. It just came down the press today. And I know this will go well with the American people, but Donald Trump ordered the Treasury Department to stop minting pennies because it costs 2 cents to make a penny. So like, this doesn't make any sense. And it's emblematic of government waste and inefficiency. And when things like this have been highlighted over the decades, because it's been like this the entire 21st century where it's been too expensive, people just throw up their hands like, but no one can do anything about it. Illinois will be mad because Abraham Lincoln's on the penny or something like that. And, I guess we can't do anything about it. And Trump just goes, well, that's stupid. Stop making pennies. There, done. And people are just like, oh, thank you. Like someone is awake here.
Yeah.
In one of the meetings I've been going to for decades now, I think, there is a group that their sole thing is getting rid of the penny. And I want to, at the next meeting, if I see him, he's an older gentleman. I just want to ask him, like, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
He's coming for the nickel now. I'm just kidding.
Lord, now you
Thomas
let your
Jefferson.
servant go in peace. Your word has been fulfilled. It's ready to go. Yeah, I mean, McCluskey, do you see this approval level being sustainable? Are we gonna come down from this? Is he gonna get even more popular? I mean, you've been around the block on the Hill. What do you see as the future for this?
Well, Donald Trump is doing everything possible that he can do administratively. And some of it's now already ending up in the courts, which is going to slow some things down.
Mhm.
Now he's got to deal with Congress, and anybody who deals with Congress, their popularity goes down.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of Congress. So once
Probably.
Congress starts messing things up, like stuff on the few things they can pass, like the reconciliation bill and things along those lines, I think you'll see probably the popularity going down.
But if he gets it passed, Tom, if he actually gets a tax cut passed, American people will like that.
I agree. While
I mean,
the
part of it
sausage
is that
being
you've
made, though,
got
it's going to be a rough ride.
part of it is that you got there's a sliver of the population that couldn't actually vote for themselves, couldn't get themselves to vote for Trump, but still are largely center right. And I still think we're sort of a center right country in many ways, although it's not as much as we'd like. And so I do feel like he's tapping into that support. Again, the more he campaigns on 80-20 issues, and the left, the left has an opportunity after an election loss like this to say, gosh, maybe we should figure out what we did right and move ourselves a little bit closer to where the American people are at. But of course, the Democrats who were most reasonable have all left. Joe Manchin's gone, John Tester, who fakes being, a moderate, he's gone. So, they run into this problem, and then they're like, oh, but Twitter is evil because it's Elon Musk. So all the liberals flock to Blue Sky, and it just becomes this insular like competition. That like they're back into the year 2019 to 2022, where everything is super progressively woke. They're back in the. I mean, they're not touching grass. They're not, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing. And it's like, look, you guys are in favor of dudes pretending like they're women. Like there's the guy who's with the Manhattan Institute.
Yeah.
Crazy story. He's got a wife and 2 kids, and then all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm Rachel now, or whatever that name, Jessica, whatever.
Jessica. Yeah.
And of course, it's Manhattan Institute is sort of like a conservative-ish group, and so you're thinking, well, what the heck, dude? Like, fire him. But like, it's New York. If they fire him, they're done. Like, they would completely shut down that organization. They'd sue him to their. We live in a crazy, crazy world, people.
Yeah. And you're asking about like Donald Trump's popularity and will it change? The thing that would affect it a lot is if the Democrats would finally get their act together. And it doesn't look like they're anywhere close to that. And their popularity is just down. If you saw any of those protests, and God bless her, like one of my nieces participated in one of the protests, they're not much of a protest.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of people, like 5 or 6 people crying. And the media,
a lot of the air came out.
Yeah. The media just cannot figure out, I say the media alongside with anti-Trumpers, they can't figure out what the message is. And part of it is I think Donald Trump is just, I'm going to give you something to complain about every single day.
But see, like some people are saying it's because they don't have a leader in the Democratic Party. But in 2017, they didn't have a leader either. And they were able to foment a lot more resistance against Trump because he won the Electoral College, but not the popular vote. So they could say the American people aren't actually with you, Trump. And they their ability to delegitimize him was enhanced by protests, by the media. And it was easier to get people to protest. You need to come to Washington. We never elected this guy. Well, you can't say that now because the left goes, oh my gosh, more Americans wanted this guy than didn't. That's kind of scary. And it took the air out of the ability to protest. Now, with regards to popularity, here's my thought. I'm going to go a little bit counterintuitive on you in this one. I think actually, I don't know if it's necessarily going to go up. I think it's, you can graph it over the course of the next year or so. And, whatever, it might go ups and downs. But overall, I think it's going to still be kind of like in this good spot where he'll have a decent amount of support above where he was elected. Now, I don't know if he'll be able to add 10 points to it necessarily, just because we're a very polarized society right now. But if given the policies he's putting in place on tapping, energy, tapping into energy, and bringing regulations down, I do think we're going to have an effect where the economy is going to start to lift up again. I do think prices will kind of regulate a little bit and off of their
inflation comes down, the rate
high.
Right.
So overall, I think Americans will be like, yeah, this is better. I like it. So I kind of feel like
the people who touch the grass that Trump is growing. Wait, is that a good analogy? But yeah, if real world policies start to affect people and benefit. I mean, we're seeing it in North Carolina in real time. Like Trump gets into office and 3 days later, there's actually bulldozers and there's money and there are houses being built down
for
there.
FEMA, right?
For yes. And speaking of FEMA, this just broke this morning. Elon Musk tweeted out, the DOGE team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million just last week, to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants in violation of Trump's executive order. Perhaps more shockingly, which hotel did it go to? Let's check. More shockingly, the money actually went to Pakistan thanks to a deal brokered by none other than Senator Chuck Schumer. Pakistan, yes, owns the Roosevelt Hotel on Manhattan Island, which is now leased by New York City to house illegal migrants. Thanks to FEMA, Pakistan has made $100 million so far out of a total of $220 million deal negotiated by the city. FEMA. Is FEMA next on the chopping block? Is this the next USAID? I
don't know, but what needs to happen over the course of the spring here is we need Republicans in the House and the Senate to start investigations on all of this stuff. That's what the hearings need to do. Expose this stuff, get this information out there. And we're not going to count on CBS and the legacy media to cover this, but the alternative media, which will eventually become the new mainstream, can start to expose this stuff and get the information out there and let people know about it, because you can just have a general feeling that there's craziness going on, but we need to get the information. We need to get it out there.
You bring up a good point, because normally Congress only investigates when a person of the other party is in power. Except now you have a person who's in power who's willing to share information with them about everything bad that's been going on, all the documents and everything else. So it would be a really good time. I mean, Jim Jordan's got to put on that investigative hat again and start going after a lot of these problems.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is, I think, the absolute whirlwind of activity, and it's just such a cultural moment, delegitimizing the entire regime that has been in power for the last upteen years. And I think just the fact that people are having these conversations at all is a total win. And if Trump is fighting a culture war as much as a policy battle, I think here.
But the thing that gets me about all this stuff, when you think about, USAID and all the money that's going out the door and all these agencies that are spending way too much, they're going into the Treasury Department and they're finding out, good golly, 24% possible corruption or, mismanagement spending. And you just think to yourself, this didn't happen overnight. Why is it that Trump was able to do more in 3 weeks than George W. Bush did in 8 years? What a disaster that guy was. Did you do anything except bomb other countries and try to privatize Social Security when no one wanted it? I mean, I'm not against it, but I mean, come on. We just think we elect Republicans, into office as they sound like Thomas Jefferson, and then all of a sudden they get to the, across the Potomac and they act like Nancy Pelosi and they want to spend money like crazy. What the heck is going on here?
That's right.
Every Republican who's complaining about what Trump is doing right now, I'm automatically suspect. And I wish that the government would set up an easy website where you could just type in a name of something and find out how much government money they got. Because that's what we're finding with a lot of these Republican congressmen is, they sat on this board, they got $3 million from USAID, or they sat on this board.
Actually, bring up a good point.
Is all over.
Right.
I was just thinking, I generally do not like campaign finance regulation, mainly because I have to do a lot of paperwork on it, by the way. But the ostensive reason is so we have a better idea of what people do and spend money on it. Well, what was the one comedian? Was it Robin Williams or someone who said, we should, like how NASCAR, the car drives, you see all the sponsors. We should have that for politicians. So they go and give a speech, and you can see oil companies, defense contractors,
Pfizer,
environmentalists, Sierra Club, all this stuff, Planned Parenthood. This person's getting every $1 million you get from another PAC, or you got to put it on your lapel.
Right. But according to Bernie Sanders, all he would have on his jacket would be the workers.
Yes.
I have $200 million, not 1 cent from the.
Whatever.
Whatever, Bernie. Okay. All right. So we do see a little bit of a breaks, a slowdown going on right now on DOGE. A federal judge has blocked Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing sensitive Treasury Department records. And of course, the left had they flipped out on Friday that Elon Musk, an unelected government official, is in our Treasury and he's going through these records. The injunction issued by Judge Paul A. Engelmeyer follows a lawsuit from 19 Democratic attorneys general claiming that Musk's DOGE's access violated federal law. The payment system in question manages trillions in annual transactions, including personal data like Social Security numbers, so they're all up in arms about this. Previously, limited read-only access was granted to 2 DOGE employees, but the judge's order now expands the restriction to prevent, quote, potential risks to personal data and system security. And we have a massive debate going on over government efficiency versus private. And of course, this whole lawsuit was spearheaded by Letitia James, famous for prosecuting Trump in that case. So the legal battles, they're coming. There's more coming, I'm sure. Good or bad for Trump? Is this...
Well, I mean, there's that case, and then there's also another legal case that's going on where the federal government, again, Donald Trump offered this buyout to federal employees. If you retire early, we'll give you like 8 months of pay, and 65,000 employees said sure.
Right.
Whoa,
that's a lot of people.
Now, both these actions, both that and what you said with DOGE at Treasury, looking in the computer systems, both these things there were lawsuits against.
Right.
Now, the one about the federal employees, like on first glance, you're like, why would there be any problem or with the early retirement? Why would there be any problem with Trump offering an early retirement? Well, actually, that's the one I actually think that makes the most case based on law, because apparently the law stipulates, and if I'm wrong, but I think it says that you can only give 2 weeks severance for an employee. So the Trump extending it to 8 months, he doesn't really have the authority to do that. So they're actually, there's a legitimate case here to be made on that. So we'll see how that one works. But like, by what authority, like you're preventing Treasury employees from accessing Treasury data? Like, I'm sorry, but that is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Like, what? And the judge is saying, "Oh no, you can't do that." It's like, no, right. Actually, you can't do that. Why don't you shut up? And I'm so sick of this idea. Like, anytime we have created certain things in this country that we think are in the Constitution that are not. So judicial review, Marbury versus Madison. No, this idea that the judicial supremacy, that the judiciary is the final call on all matters of the Constitution, is baloney. It's as baloney as separation of church and state. It's a thing that people just accept as reality, but it's not. And we see all 3 branches are co-equal. I mean, not really. I mean, the Constitution, the way it's framed, was that the Congress is supposed to have the most power. Right. And then others say, well, no, we think it should be the presidency. But the founders were united on it. Wasn't the judiciary. And yet that's the one that has the most power now. And if they are co-equal branches, then that means all 3 branches of government have a responsibility to uphold and defend the Constitution. So if some judge goes rogue and does something like this that's unconstitutional, you have an obligation not to go, well, I'm going to complain all the way to the Supreme Court. You could say, go pound sand. We're ignoring your order. It's unconstitutional. And you say that, and the left, like, and their heads explode. But it's true.
McCluskey, did you?
All right.
Rosie, I put a link in the LOOPcast in our Slack channel on there's something. It's a guy I know, used to be at DOJ in the first Trump administration. There's something called injunction bonds, and he's saying we should implement this, and under Federal Rule of Civil Procedures 65C, we all know that one.
right. Yeah.
Judges
Let me
can
pull that.
issue injunctions only if the suing party posts a bond to cover potential damage if they're wrong. But this rule is hardly ever used. So could you just imagine that that for these layoffs and everything else that if the other side would have to put up an injunction bond, because we're talking about potentially
Right.
billions of dollars that currently are being that shouldn't be spent right now that are currently being spent because of this injunction.
Yeah.
To put that at the responsibility to
That's an
get rid of
interesting
these
idea. I
frivolous
mean, the
lawsuits.
thing is, the left has done this for literally generations, where we finally get something that we want, and then immediately you get some judge to slap an injunction on it, and they stop it while we have to fight for years and years and years on the dang
Right.
policy. It's like, you know what? Let the policy go into effect, and then if you want to take it out, take it out. But it's like, no. So we get
you
conservative policy for about 3 minutes before these guys. I'm so sick of them. And the thing is,
Ugh.
the way the founders had it would be like, well, if you have judges that go rogue, you should impeach them. And people are like, well, we could never do that. I'm like,
Why
I mean,
not?
what's the problem? What's the point of having checks and balances if you make it unseemly to ever even suggest doing something like that? Like,
they're already moving to impeach Trump. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
what, day 7? They were like,
for a
what's wrong?
phone call, for trying to expose your corruption, but we can't impeach a judge. Like, that's the one thing. Like, that's
Unbelievable.
that's unseemly. Like, no, it's just
Right.
enforcing the Constitution.
Right. And I think that the whole last 2 weeks have just been showcasing how in the upside down we're living when it comes to their constitutional order. And again, it's the left calling black white and up down. It's that, oh my gosh, Trump is a threat to the Constitution and our democracy. But actually what this is exposing is, like you said, Josh, Congress is supposed to be in the first driver when it comes to running our country. And what Trump is doing now, do I wish am I excited that the executive branch is able to just change all this by executive order? No, I would love it if Congress would actually pass bills that are specific enough that it governs how our money is spent and that it gets back some control of how we run our spending. That's what they were designed to do. They're supposed to be in charge of the budget. But the reality is that Congress abrogated that responsibility through the last 60 years of the progressive march through the institutions. And now we have this rule by executive order and by the fourth estate, the bureaucracy. And we have the EEOC telling us how we're going to run our conscience protections and how we're going to spend money as employers. That's one example of the way how we live in the upside down. And then, like you said, Josh, the judiciary, which is supposed to be the backstop of protecting the constitutional order, is in the front seat. And it is so backwards. And I'm grateful that Trump is exposing that and that he's using what the left has done to the executive branch and to the constitutional order. He's using that to try and right the ship. And that's what they can't stand. You can't use the deep state to dismantle the deep state, even though that's what you said you were going to do. And it's what he's trying to do. Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
Congress needs Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We need Donald Trump's in
Yes.
there too, because Congress is
telling them to be men.
people,
Come on, grow some cojones, guys. And that's what Trump does. He's like, come on.
There's a corruption of sloth within Congress, where if they don't want to do something, if something is too difficult, they'll pass the buck either to the judiciary, or right now to Donald Trump. And you need to get some real men in there. And I'm sorry, the leaders we have right now are not cutting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
hey,
I agree.
You can say what you want about our conclaves in the church, but I think the conclaves do it right, where you get all the cardinals in there to do their vote and to hash it out. They're shut up in the Sistine Chapel. They're given bread and water. It's kind of cold. They're on cots in these little cells with tents between them. Maybe we should just run Congress by it like that.
Well, then we could maybe move the United States Congress to Minot, North Dakota, where it's miserably cold right now, and they don't want to be there. So we'll have less of a mess. Get in, get out, get done. Make them spend winters in Minot, North Dakota, and then summers in Death Valley.
I like it.
We'll be seeing white smoke very quickly.
That's right. Very quick white smoke.
They get their act together fast.
That's right. All right. Speaking of the church, this is my segue. Did you like that? That was a good segue. We're having some drama. So USAID drama, is not confined to the halls of power in DC, nor to the halls of the Great Lady in New York City. We had a Vatican charity come out, the head of the Vatican office responsible for migrants, the environment, and it's called Caritas Internationalis. Cardinal Michael Czerny, a Czech-born Canadian Jesuit, and he's described by AP News as, quote, Pope Francis's point man on development aid. He comes out and warns that as a result of the ruthless United States decision to recklessly stop USAID funding, millions of people will die and hundreds of millions more will be condemned to, quote, dehumanizing poverty. Czerny said that every incoming government has the right to review its foreign aid budget and even to reform an agency like USAID. But he said it's another thing to dismantle an agency after it has made funding commitments. So very down on that, very high up in the Vatican Jesuit. Gentlemen, reaction to this. What's going on?
I mean, we're supposed to be respectful to cardinals even when they say something stupid, right? I mean,
you can be respectful until I say it was stupid. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, millions are going to die because we're hitting the pause button for 90 days while we review this. Like, really? Like, I just don't think this guy's serious. So I will not take his criticism serious. I mean, it's stupid. Like, we are saying there's just been a blizzard of checks going out from our federal government to all sorts of things that don't make any sense, like transgender comic book, transgender opera, all this stuff. Like, what the heck is all this stuff? Hit the pause button for 90 days, which is not crazy. And we can examine, like, does this actually make sense? And the things that like 90% of the people agree with, like, let's give some, rice to people in Africa who are starving. Okay, sure. But then, the comic book, transgender comic book, yeah, let's just not send that, please. It's utterly, totally rational and reasonable. And anyone who's this upset about it, I just figure you're either malicious or stupid. I mean, like, come on. Like, we're not saying we're never going to give out aid anymore. And in fact, I just wish my church, both in the Vatican and in the U.S. Bishops' Conference, would offer more serious responses to Trump's policies when they object to them.
Right.
Like, if you're like, well, I'm worried that you're not going to give money overseas. It's like, well, I hit a pause button for 90 days while we review this. We didn't say we're not going to give aid anymore. So, and how about this? Here's a critique. A Republican senator from Kansas, Jerry Moran, said, I understand you want to pause it for 90 days. I mean, okay, but like, we have wheat and corn that are in boats that are ready to go, and they're just going to waste if we don't let them go. So can we do this? And the Trump administration is like, yeah, fine. Okay, fine. And they said yes to that. So that would be a criticism that Jerry Moran offered, the senator, that was reasonable.
It was constructive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
good things happen.
This idea, millions are going to die. Like, these guys scream and we hear it from the leftist media as well. La, 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 people, you just tune them out.
Mm-hmm.
We need a church. We need churchmen in the U.S. Bishops' Conference as well as in the Vatican who offer reasonable and constructive criticisms, not this garbage. And it's just like on immigration. Right. When the first week where we're like sending out these violent thugs, these rapists, these killers, the assaulters, and the bishop from El Paso was squawking. It's like, why aren't you celebrating? Like, we want to get rid of those people. And you can offer your constructive criticism while you do that and say, I just hope we don't, throw everyone out. Yeah. But thankfully, we're getting rid of violent criminals. But no, he just goes, this is terrible. This is terrible. Well, I mean, of course, the violent ones you should get rid of, but this is terrible. This is terrible. Then the American people think, is this what the Catholic Church is about?
Right.
It's a very poor witness.
This is Tom speaking, except the Vatican lecturing me on how to deal with corruption. I'm not really going to listen to all that much.
Oh, awkward moment.
Clean your own house before you start telling us what to do.
Yeah. And I think that it drives me crazy. and we were talking about this before the show, Mercer, on the call. So Cardinal Cherney, he gives the nod to, yeah, sure, like the government has the right. He gives a little bit of a nod, which probably from his point of view is
One
his
sentence rhetorical
right.
flourish.
He's like,
yeah.
okay, so yeah, governments are allowed to review how they're spending. Oh, thank you. Right. But then immediately it goes into, and we are disappointed in this administration, and this is like dastardly humanitarian crisis. And like you said, for me, if I was trying to apply this to how we run our family budget in the home, right? If we're in a period where our spending, we look back at like 2 months spending, and this always happens right around December and January, because you have Christmas, you overspend, and then January, you're like recovering and trying to, anyway. So you look back and you're like, whoa, we were totally like, oh my gosh, we aren't going to keep spending at December levels like it's Christmas all day long, but we're going to immediately stop all the extraneous stuff like eating out. We're going to pause that. We're going to pause, make sure we get back in control, and then start to add things back in. And I think if anything, the Trump administration has been super clear that they are not isolationist. We are not just like, setting our sights on North America only by any stretch of the imagination. Marco Rubio was very clear in all his interviews last week about this, that we want to continue humanitarian life-saving work around the globe. And I think he understands very much it's a matter of cleaning up our house and righting the ship, and that America has a role to play in development around the world. For better or for worse, we are empire. And if we make a void, China's going to step in to fill it, or Russia's going to step in to fill it. And we have to be careful about that. So I don't see any signaling that America is going to withdraw all of this. But in order to be able to do that better, we have to be able to get our spending under control. And
and it's like,
people
can
more.
no other country do it? I mean, aren't there now other billionaires that can do this stuff? Like,
there's a few.
I'd like to think that we're unique. I don't know if other countries could really do it the way we do it, and especially with the compassion we do it. Being founded as a Christian nation and everything else. Except you have to ask some of these people who are complaining, including the Vatican, where do you think $30,000 is better spent? On a transgender comic book, or getting needles with malaria medicine to Africa, where it's needed? And that's all we're pausing for. We're not even saying reducing the amount of money we're putting out, though I hope eventually we do. We're just saying we shouldn't be spending the money on certain things and instead concentrate on other things.
Right. And I think too, like the lack of acknowledgement that the money we're spending abroad right now is not even our money. Like we are borrowing. This is
from China.
This is from China. So if you're looking at like, well, though the Vatican's relationship with China, who knows what's going on there, but we're looking at this is our grandkids' money that they're going to have, our great grandkids at this point. Like, when will we pay this debt down? So we're not even, and there, I think our church has something to say about that as well, reckless spending and going into debt. So again, like just the lack of nuance makes it really hard. And I would, like you said, Josh, I would love for church leadership to work with the administration in any capacity that it can. And maybe that'll come. I know there are bishops, and we've featured them in the Loop, who have made really supportive statements of certain measures the Trump administration is taking, like the executive order to protect girls' sports, like the There Are Only Two Sexes executive order, and that's really encouraging to see. So I'm trying to focus on the Bishop Barons and ignore the Supiches and the Jesuits in the Vatican.
Well,
but it is deflating.
Trump does an executive order on women keeping sports for girls, like, and the bishops applaud it. I'm like, I mean, do I throw a party? I'm like, well, I would hope you would. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
It's sad that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a huge win. It should just be the no-brainer. I mean, I take care of my kids. Yeah, I mean, you're a dad. You should. Yeah. I did want to ask, since we have you on, Tom. Oh, the handsome Tom, the good-looking Tom. Since we have you on today, I did want to ask, there was a big op-ed in the New York Times from some prominent Catholics, Leila Bresco's Sargent, Catherine Jean Lopez, and the title, of course, is like Save PEPFAR. And I know you've been involved in a lot of conversations about PEPFAR, and just to put their argument out there, that PEPFAR has been paused, but it's been a great program. It's saved 25 million lives. Preventing mother-to-child transmission of the HIV virus, in particular, is the focus of their op-ed. And they're estimating that With the 90-day freeze, 230 babies with HIV will die every day. They think PEPFAR should be a special priority of the pro-life movement. And they do acknowledge the program has brought some scrutiny down upon itself for violating the Mexico City policy, possibly with the Mozambique case. But on the whole, they're like, PEPFAR is a great thing. We should keep funding it. This is absolutely necessary to fund it immediately because of all the lives that are at stake. And I wanted to get your take on the op-ed, coming as it does from some really sincere Catholics.
I was actually involved in 2003 in helping to pass PEPFAR originally, and it was supposed to be pro-life. The Democrats agreed with it at the time. Even Bono was from U2 was very crucial in getting it passed. Chris Smith, of course, was leading the charge in making sure the Bush administration was anti-prostitution, pro-life, anti-drugs, anti-trafficking. It's lost a lot of that over the last few decades. And Catholic Vote and Heritage Foundation were kind of the only two very vocal groups during last year that was saying, because they wanted to renew PEPFAR for like 5 years. And we were following Chris Smith's lead, and he was just like, this is funding abortions. I know it is. And you had Republicans and Democrats alike saying, you don't know what you're talking about. We need to refund this. Thankfully, House leadership listened to Chris Smith. And then at the end of the year, one of the senators who was fighting Chris Smith on this released a report saying how abortions were being done in Mozambique. Mm-hmm. So any sort of renewal has to include Chris Smith's pro-life language in it. And also we need to see that report come out because it's probably just the tip of the iceberg. So you can cry and bemoan all you want about how good PEPFAR is doing. Unless we can stop the bad that it's doing, we're not going to be exactly sure what good it is doing as well. Mm-hmm. So this is a program that I hope continues, because at the heart of it and at the very beginning of it, it was a truly humanitarian program. But just to blanket say, oh, this needs to be renewed again for 5 years. Yeah, it's got some problems, but it still needs to be renewed. I love Catherine Jean Lopez, and I'm sure the other women on the op-ed are fantastic as well, except they are just completely wrong. Mm-hmm. This either needs to be reformed, or we need a brand new piece of legislation.
Yeah. I'd be all for let's just run a brand new piece of funding through Congress and have Congress specify the pro-life protections and conscience protections and all that stuff. Let's just start again from the beginning. But anyway, all right. I wanted to get that because I knew you were close to Chris Smith on that project back in the day. Can I just have a little palate cleanser here? Rosie, can you pull up the Vance family? This is... I hope this runs. I hope the internet. Let's just pray. Maximilian Colby, please heal Rosie's internet so we can see this adorable little palate cleanser going on. So the Vance family just landed in Paris this morning. And yes, he brought his entire family to his first tour of Europe. And it's really cute. We're going to get it. Oh, here we go. All right, so if those of you on audio, they're coming out of the plane. Usha looks fantastic. Can I just get a jumpsuit like that? It's beautiful. And the kids are wearing their pajamas, looking like they just woke up from an overnight flight. And they have their little formal wool pea coats over the pajamas. and then if you keep watching, it's kind of choppy. But JD Vance is carrying his little daughter. And security keeps coming up and trying to take her from him. And the two boys just wander off with security, but JD won't give the daughter away. It's just, how normal is this? This is so normal.
Very relatable.
I love it. My mom, I just got a little choked up being oh, we have normalcy. It has returned. Oh, they're so cute. She's got her head down on him. Right. I don't know. Mercer, how do you feel about going into the JD Vance controversy?
I just a minute or so on this.
Yeah. Can you give us what went down, our little intra-church?
Well, so some DOGE employee made some comments that were racist years and years ago, and it was surfaced by a journalist. And so then it was should we fire this guy or whatever? And JD was like, look, can he do the job? Does he still hold his opinion? The opinions are bad and wrong, but is there any sign or that he holds them today? If not, then let the guy work. And we shouldn't reward journalists for digging into quotes that someone said when they're like 14 or 15 years old, even if they're repugnant. Like, just get over it. Like, is there, you know? And so then this one member of Congress was like, JD, how could you excuse, for the sake of both of our children, how could you excuse this, you know, anti-Indian hate? Because, you know, Ro Khanna is an Indian American, and JD Vance married an Indian American, and so he has Indian American children. And so JD Vance is like, for the sake of both of our kids, grow up. Racist trolls on the internet, while offensive, don't threaten my kids. You know what does? A culture that denies grace to people who make mistakes. A culture that encourages congressmen to act like whiny children, which was awesome. You know, like, thank you. Push back at this stuff. Well, that did not sit well with, you know, racial arsonist Gloria Purvis. She's a Catholic speaker who was, I think, majorly mistakenly invited by the U.S. bishops to speak at the Eucharistic Congress, because they wanted, you know, again, they want to have lots of different voices. And so they bring in somebody who was reasonable about 6-7 years ago, but after so-called St. George Floyd was killed, she went absolutely bananas and started accusing every white person of being horrible, evil, racist, and all this other stuff. So she says about what JD Vance pushing back and saying, get over it. Like, JD Vance being sensible, normal. Gloria Purvis says that JD Vance is, quote, doing the work of the evil one.
Oh.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And she just went on this Twitter rant accusing him of everything. Vance, a recent convert, demonstrates his comfort with the sin of racism here. Defending racism is the antithesis of being pro-life. So the appropriate answer to this, of course, would be, hey, Gloria, shut up. We're sick of your crap. And as someone said on it's like on The Matrix, when Neo suddenly realizes, I don't need to do this anymore. He just catches the bullet and goes, I'm done with this. This is hogwash. I am sick of your emotional blackmail. Yeah. Shut up. It's full of crap. You're actually spreading racism, Gloria. You're not defeating it. You're making everything worse. We had not that everything was perfect in our country, but by the 80s and 90s, we were actually approaching as close as we could to a post-racist society. This is very, very good. Not that there weren't problems. I mean, I remember Rodney King. I'm not an idiot, but it was so much better. But the obsession we have with race that we've had over the last 5, 6, 7 years has made everything worse. Right. And you, Gloria, you're making it worse. For the sake of the church and the humanity, please, you repent.
Mm-hmm.
And shut up, please.
All right. We got Josh's take on that. McCluskey.
Just toxic garbage.
Yeah.
Vicious smears. Accusing the vice president of racism because he's like, hey, maybe we should throw a little compassion to the guy and not barbecue him for something he said 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But like, racism is this wonderful thing. You find out someone said something racist 15, 20, 30 years ago, and then you can hang them over their neck and just like, and there's what is this the one? Is this the unforgivable sin in American life today? You know, that there's no forgiveness for?
Well, there's forgiveness if you're Justin Trudeau, because he's cool now. He could dance around in blackface back in college, and he's still fine because he toes the line. But yeah, certainly not for populists.
Racists are mad that JD Vance married a woman that was of Indian descent. Yeah. Like worst racist ever.
Yes.
Just Google Joe Biden and Indian.
Yeah.
And tell me which party is more racist.
Gloria Purvis has got a problem. She hates it, absolutely hates it, that white Catholics are moving away from the Democratic Party and they're voting for Republicans. She despises that, and she will use emotional blackmail to try to cajole people. You got to ignore her.
Yep. Just ignore it. Just shut it down. Doesn't have to live in our heads rent free. Yeah, exactly. Let's move into the Twilight Zone now. So Tom McCluskey, as our honored guest, you're up first.
And I don't know if you saw it in time in the LOOPcast channel, Rosie. I decided to go with a palate cleanser too. I had another thing on USAID, and in a sense, this does have to do with that. But there is one Democrat who's loving a lot of what Donald Trump is doing, and that's DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, because all these
What?
boarded up businesses in DC, finally people are coming back to DC because they're being forced to by the president. This morning, 17,000 employees were ordered to appear at Navy Yard, to go to the Navy Yard. I heard traffic really wasn't all that bad, but Metro reached a record Monday rush hour this morning after Trump's
So
executive
businesses
order
are
against
able to
remote work.
flourish again because people
Right.
are back to work, you're
They
saying.
need to eat lunch.
Right.
They need a lunch date. That's right. They need drinks after office hours.
I still want a lot of what DC does move to like Wichita, Kansas or something like that.
I mean,
However,
the real answer here isn't to abolish the Department of Education necessarily. It's just to make sure you only have like 5 employees.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
certainly
This is
okay
like,
with that.
it's going to make DC safer because if you have more people around who are there for constructive reasons, that's going to be great. I love it.
Federal government workers, so
Yeah.
let's
well,
not get
yeah.
over optimistic.
Oh, okay. I'll settle down a little bit. All right. Josh.
So, Russ Vogt got confirmed and he's now Director of Office of Management and Budget. And as normal, a university or college that, would celebrate, hey, our alumnus got an important position. That's kind of neat. So that's what Wheaton College did. It's the evangelical school, hour west of Chicago or whatever. And it's been known for being a conservative evangelical college. And they sent out a note on social media congratulating their alumnus for getting this prestigious post. One of their alumni is in the cabinet, and this time he wasn't acting. He got it on his own accord. He got it voted in through not own accord, but through the Senate. So what happened? Wheaton College then goes, ruh-roh. A few days later, after a bunch of liberals squawked, they sent out this little note. On Friday, Wheaton College posted a congratulations and a call to prayer for an alumnus who received confirmation to a White House post. The recognition and prayer is something we would typically do for any graduate who reached that level of government. However, the political situation surrounding the appointment led to a significant concern expressed online. It was not our intention to embroil the college in a political discussion or dispute.
Here it
Our
comes.
institutional and theological commitments are clear that the college, as a nonprofit institution, does not make political endorsements. Are you kidding me?
What?
You were thanking the guy for getting a cabinet post and asking people to pray. That no one said you were donating money to a political campaign, but this was actually, in a way, very good. And here's why. Now, millions of evangelicals will realize that Wheaton is gone and has lost its way, and they'll send their kids to Hillsdale College instead.
Love it. I love it. Let's do it.
Well, they'll convert to Catholicism, hopefully.
The Wheaton College that because I grew up Protestant and yeah, right. Don't say that out loud because Hillsdale's getting a little antsy about that.
Hey.
It happens.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, in my early evangelical Protestant days, Wheaton College was like the school of Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, like these great missionaries. And, you went there because you knew that your kids would get a great solid foundation in the faith and be able to go out into the world and act on it. That was part of the ethos of it. And it had a lot of influence. And this is just, it's gone the way of like
capture.
Georgetown. Yep. Institutional capture, Holy Cross. And so disappointed in Wheaton. But like you said, it's good. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. We know what's up now, and maybe evangelical kids will be marked safe from Wheaton College.
Maybe we can make a recommendation to Wheaton College to do what John Zemerick would like happen to places like, Georgetown and Fordham. Fordham and Georgetown should rename themselves after like Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
And the Margaret Sanger, because
right.
You love the sexual revolution. You love treating people like trash and killing babies. Go for it. Then do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Why play a game?
All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to see your guy. I want a reaction. We have a little sacred art controversy that Matt Fradd started over the weekend. Matt Fradd posted this on X and all his platforms. So it's a statue of Carlo Acutis, and it is just realistic. I mean, I don't know how to describe this for the audio listeners. He's just standing there with his red polo t-shirt on, his jeans, and his sunglasses are hanging off his t-shirt. He's got his hands on his hips. And there's a picture of a priest blessing the statue. Matt Fradd posts this and he says, I don't like the statue, But when I think of why, I can't come up with a compelling reason. Is it because he's wearing modern clothes? Well, that's not very good. Is it because, unlike most religious statues, he doesn't appear to be praying? Is it because, well, you tell me why, or why I'm wrong to not like it? So again, we have a very sort of just non-committal statue here going on of Carlo Acutis. Gentlemen, are you with Matt? Do you like it? Is it sacred art? What's going on here?
I first of all
It
super
does.
love Carlo Acutis,
Yes.
but I also am with him that there's, as the kids would say, a vibe thing. Like, why is it that it doesn't feel right? But the reason I think it doesn't feel right is it feels more like it's a wax museum rather than a statue. So you can have it be that he's wearing more modern clothes and you can easily identify him. But why can't he be like his hands praying or like looking above? So there's still some element where, he's thinking, God's entered into the picture and it's not just going to a wax museum. That's what I would try to do. Do something like that.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like the villain in an 80s John Hughes high school flick. With the sunglasses, the collar up.
Swing and a miss. That's not good.
That's funny.
But I do think having him in some sort of reverence, which we do believe he spent a lot of his time, would be better suited.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something about, religious art in a church, it's supposed to point the person to God. And like you're saying, there's no posture here that suggests that. He's not even wearing a cross or a crucifix around his neck. At least give us some symbolism here. I think that for me, sacred art is primarily about God and the divine, and that this person is now in heaven with God. But this statue is 100% horizontal. It's 100% in this world. And
Right.
just, it doesn't belong in a church. Like you said, maybe a wax museum, maybe if you're like visiting his birthplace and they wanted a sort of realistic, it's not even really great depiction of him realistically.
And it's not the only statue. There's others where he's wearing like a medallion that with the
Mhm.
IHS and he's
Mhm.
pointing to it, like that. I like that. That's great. So there's at least some sense of, that it's a divine and he's now entered into the beatific vision, hopefully with our Lord, right? As
Mhm.
opposed to like just the wax museum of some celebrity you see. So.
Yeah, I love it. Make church art great again. Yeah, I went to a parish this weekend. We had a massive snowstorm here and ended up at a local parish that I hadn't been to in a while. It was one of those that was built in the 80s and it's a barn because they thought eventually they would build a real church, but it was meant to be a gym. So it's just this white box. But the priest has taken the white box and they put in some wood paneling. Baldacchino comes down. There's more wood paneling behind all the saint statues. So it's still a box, but they're really trying to move it towards sacred space and sacred art. So, shout out to St. Bridget of Sweden Parish here in Connecticut.
You had a big snowstorm?
Well, for Connecticut standards, I don't want to
2
talk about how
inches?
disappointed.
Yes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 8 to 12. We got 3, but that's our biggest one this
Come
year.
on, dude.
Oh, the baby's crying about it. Everyone hear that? How sad he is about
I
the
got 3
snow.
inches last night, 6
Yeah.
inches of snow the night before that.
Oh man,
Nothing.
headed to Michigan. That's it. All right, guys, that's all we've got for you today. Thanks again, Tom, good-looking Tom, for joining us and sitting in for Pogo. Hope that you're better, Pogo. Maybe we'll see you Wednesday, unless you have the baby. That would be fun too.
And thanks for all the listeners who like our program. Obviously, share it, like it, tell your friends, and a shout out to Beverly and Phoenix. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Hey, Beverly. All right. But the best thing you can do for us, of course, is pray for us. So we'll ask St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, and Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us, and we will see you on the